Jacksonville Jaguars fans, welcome into Duval Daily presented by GenJag.com. I'm Jordan Lugo. Thanks so much for being here. Thursday, September 25th, your Jacksonville Jaguars getting ready to head out to San Francisco to play the 49ers. The 49ers are 3.5-point favorites with an implied score in the range of 25 to 22. So a close one is expected by those making decisions in Vegas for sure. We're going to get into this game, get the game preview going. Really appreciate y'all being here. If you enjoy the content, please like and subscribe. You can also check out genjag.com/shop, pick up some new Duval gear, help support the channel and look good while doing it. So the Jaguars have really, and I do mean really, struggled on the West Coast. It's been just incredibly difficult for them to not only win, but to play respectable football. Now, this is a new era of Jaguars football led by Liam Cohen, Tony Baselli, James Gladstone, and the crew, right? But they have got to find a way to get their players to go out west and play good football. It simply has not happened very often throughout the last 20 years. And regardless of where the game has been played against the 49ers, the Jaguars have been abysmal in recent seasons. So this is one where, you kind of talk about last week, Texans. They hadn't beaten the Texans in Jacksonville since 2017. They hadn't beaten the Texans very often in general over the last 20 years. This is kind of a similar situation, obviously not as familiar in terms of the two opponents, but there is plenty of familiarity here. Liam Cohen, a lot of time in LA. James Gladstone, a lot of time in LA. Division rivals with the San Francisco 49ers. And then you also talk about the fact that the 49ers defense, a lot of what the Texans do translates to that defense as well from a schematic, philosophical standpoint on the defensive side of the ball. And you've also got Gus Bradley over there as the assistant head coach in San Francisco. So there's still plenty of connective tissue, even though these are two teams that are not in the same division or conference and they play thousands of miles away from each other, right? The biggest headline for the Jaguars so far, they're 2-1 in this new era of Jaguars football. They should be 3-0, thanks in large part to their defense forcing 9 turnovers in 3 games, leading the NFL on a pretty historic pace there in terms of the turnovers. They're generating pressures at a high rate with Josh Hines-Allen, Trayvon Walker, some of the other players up front getting in the mix as well. DeJuan Smoot, Eric Armstead, also getting some pressure from different blitz packages. Safeties getting in there, linebackers getting in there. That's leading to a lot of playmaking opportunities at every single level of the defense to go along with the primarily zone defense. The Jaguars are one of the least man-heavy defenses in the NFL. You get the zone eyes back there, eyes on the football, eyes on the quarterback, eyes forward, and it's allowing these guys to go make a lot of plays. Anthony Campanile is mixing up coverages a ton. They're one of the most varied coverage units in football. The way the fronts are being deployed is also pretty tricky. You're not always getting a blitz, but even when you don't get a blitz, you don't know where the pressure is coming from with sim pressures. You got guys dropping out. You got guys rushing. You got guys looking like they're going to rush and then dropping out. The Jaguars have had one of the most diverse defenses in the NFL through 3 weeks, and it's been showing. It's been very difficult for offenses to kind of get a beat on what they're trying to do back there. On the offensive side of the ball, the Jaguars boast a rushing attack that has eclipsed 135 yards on the ground in 2 of 3 contests, while averaging over 5 yards per carry on the young season. Travis Etienne having a resurgent year. Bashal Tutin playing very good football as well as a rookie, and so is Lee Quint Allen, who is emerging as their passing down 2-minute type of back, and certainly somebody who is welcoming of violence. But the passing game has a lot to be desired in Jacksonville. I mean, it's been shocking how inconsistent the Jaguars passing attack has been. I will say, I think that there were a lot of positive signs for the Jaguars passing attack through most of 2 weeks. There was little mistakes here and there, drops, maybe a missed throw. But through 2 weeks, it looked pretty solid. In week 3, it really struggled, and the Texans have a really sound defense. And again, a similar defense to what the 49ers are going to bring to the table in a lot of ways. You also have the pre-snap penalty situation, which has been among the worst in the league and has also really slowed the Jaguars offense down a good bit. Special teams has not been as good for the Jaguars as this group is accustomed to. I mean, you look at Ross Matisic, long snapper, Logan Cook, punter, Cam Little, kicker. Last year, maybe the best trio of specialists in the league, along with really good coverage units. That hasn't really come to fruition so far this year. Cam Little has struggled a little bit on kickoffs, no pun intended there. He also missed a kick last week that he's accustomed to making. Logan Cook hasn't been as much of a weapon in the punting game as you're used to. And you've also seen some poor snaps from Ross Matisic and some not so inspiring coverage and return units. So Heath Farwell and the Jaguars, they have a lot of work to do in that regard, and it's a work in progress there. When you look at the 49ers, I mean, one of the best coaching staffs in the league with Kyle Shanahan as the head coach and obviously coaching up the offense and calling plays on that side of the ball. He is the architect, or, his dad is the architect for a lot of modern NFL offense. And they do it on the ground. They normally do it with a lot of stars. Some of those guys are injured. When you talk about George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk, Ricky Pearsall, who popped off this past week, did not practice on Wednesday. They're hoping to get Brock Purdy back, their starting quarterback, who's dealing with a toe and a shoulder. Mac Jones is also limited with a knee injury right now. So injuries will play a part in this game. It feels like whether or not it's missing all of the guys we just mentioned or some of the guys we just mentioned, they will definitely be without Nick Bosa, George Kittle, and Brandon Ayuk. Nick Bosa, one of the top defensive ends on the planet. George Kittle, one of the best tight ends on the planet, and Brandon Ayuk, a wide receiver 1. So it's going to be really interesting. But Kyle Shanahan, even without those guys, knows how to get the job done. Robert Saleh returning to their defense this year and really picking up where he left off. The defense has been very good for the 49ers so far. It's going to be a tough matchup. Christian McCaffrey on offense, even though they've got some big injuries, he remains a dual threat. I don't think he is the 99 speed guy that he maybe once was, but still very quick, still difficult to get to the ground, very detailed football player that can beat you through the air or beat you on the ground still. So the Jaguars have to be very disciplined defensively. On the other side of the ball, Fred Warner is the engine. Even without Nick Bosa, Fred Warner's still there. One of the most athletic, intelligent, and competitive players, regardless of position, in the NFL. He's playing linebacker at the highest level of any player on the planet. And his new running mate, D. Winters, he can fly too. He's really fast. He's been a playmaker for them, flying all over the field. Even though there's no Nick Bosa, Bryce Huff, who they traded for, is generating a ton of pressure and getting to the quarterback a little bit as well. So Bryce Huff is somebody the Jaguars have to worry about. And interestingly enough, Bryce Huff, if he eclipses or gets to 8 sacks this year, the Jaguars trade with the Eagles for Tank Bigsby will turn from a 5th-round pick to a 4th-round pick. So obviously hoping Bryce Huff doesn't get any of those sacks in this one, but just kind of a unique situation there where the Jaguars are playing against a player who will directly impact their draft positioning in 2026. Again, assistant head coach Gus Bradley. You've seen him. I mean, gosh, what a history he has with the Jaguars, being arguably the second worst coach in franchise history. Probably you could say that. Nobody's going to top what happened in 2021 with he who shall not be named. But assistant head coach Gus Bradley also spent a ton of time with the Indianapolis Colts. So the Jaguars have been seeing a lot of Gus Bradley, whether it's in their own building or on the opposite sideline, over the last decade plus. And the Jags offenses have had a really good time against Gus Bradley defenses. Robert Saleh's defense has evolved a little bit past what Gus Bradley was bringing, but he'll still be over there. So he'll be on the opposing sideline. Don't know how many connections at this point this Jaguars organization still has to Gus Bradley on the football side, but Gus will be over there. The 49ers have yet to intercept a pass this year, while Jaguars quarterback Trevor Lawrence has thrown 4 interceptions. Not all of them his fault, but it is what it is. Something's got to give there. Either Trevor Lawrence is going to have a clean game, not throw an interception, or the 49ers will get their first interception of the 2025 campaign. The 49ers are 3-0. The Jaguars are 2-1. It's Jaguars at 49ers, 4:05 p.m. kick, a late afternoon kick. Jaguars fans not too used to that. Plenty of anxiety, I'm sure, will be on display for all the Jaguars fans around the country on the 1 p.m. slate waiting for a 4:05 p.m. kick. Can the Jaguars break a streak for a second straight week? Winning in California, winning against the 49ers after beating the Texans last week. And can they earn their first road win of the Baselli, Gladstone, and Cohen era? Can't wait to find out. Really appreciate y'all tuning in. If you enjoy the content, please like and subscribe. Y'all have a good one.